Welcome back to my Thoughtful Thursdays video channel. We are here in my backyard. I hear some cicadas. I hear somebody mowing their lawn. So an exciting time. I am here with my neighbor, Whitney Creath, and she is here today to talk with us. And I'm super excited about kind of our theme today, which is kind of the church and patriarchy. Heard you talk. I've seen the things that you're posting, and I love it. Thank you so much for coming on here today.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate that. So why don't we get off by starting to talk a little bit about kind of just your normal biographical stuff.
So I am a stay-at-home mom, have been since I was 19. I grew up in Georgia, moved to Illinois when I turned 19 and got married. We have wonderful neighbors who moved in about a year after we did. My husband is absolutely amazing and is, I love him a lot, and he takes really good care of us and puts up with me really well.
I can vouch for that. Not to put it up, but he's a good guy. Not that he is a good guy. Puts up with a lot. No, that's awesome. So I have to admit, kind of being a third party person watching your guys' journey. You have come from this amazing spot to another amazing spot. And that's always life. And you come out of a different church, you're into another church, and watch this journey of what you guys have been going on has been absolutely life-giving to me. And to see people make positive changes in their life that not only affects them, but affects their family and their friends that are around them. So would you give us a little bit of perspective into kind of what that journey has looked like for you and John?
So John and I both grew up in conservative households. We both have grown up in the church. When we first got married and moved up to Illinois, we were young. Both of us were 19. We were coming from our households of origin. We got up here. My sister-in-law was up here because of a job at the time, and so we just decided that it made sense rather than start from scratch for our church setting, not having any relationships, being young. We just decided we're going to go where they go. Mm-hmm. During that time, there was just a lot of stuff that happened that we've learned a lot from, and that's made me personally question a lot of the beliefs that I had held very closely as a teenager and going into our marriage and things like that.
Well, I love that you said that you've started to question some of those beliefs. I've always looked at it as like you kind of hold your beliefs instead of in like a tight fist, like on an open palm, where they can come, they can go, and you don't hold on to those beliefs rigidly. So
I'm learning not to.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. That's hard.
Well, my Clifton strength, one of them is beliefs.
Okay.
So for me, I do hold them very dearly, and they are a huge part of the core of who I am.
Perfect.
And so part of my journey has been learning when to hold and examine those beliefs and when to take them and say, okay, I'm having questions about this. This isn't turning out the way I thought this belief would. Mm-hmm. What do I need to do with this now?
Yeah, I can imagine also you are an Enneagram 8. Ellen is also an Enneagram 8. I'm an Enneagram 2. So us 2s have learned how to deal with the 8s in our lives. And I love it. I love the blunt directness of it. And I'm sure that has a lot to do with your belief system too.
It does,
yeah. So
sure.
I've been hearing you talk a lot about this thing called patriarchy. And I want to know if you could maybe tell us a little bit about it. It kind of sounds to me like maybe you hate all men. Like, why do you hate all men, Whitney? Tell us that. Look at the camera and tell us why you hate all men.
I don't hate all men. I just don't take shit from anybody.
Oh, there we go. Now, going down that rabbit hole. So what is it about patriarchy then that we should know?
To a lot of people, when they hear the word patriarchy, it's the idea that men should have leadership and control or power over women. And that's why a lot of people are reacting so strongly to this term in our culture today.
It's not just one submitting to the other. If you look at the Bible, it's actually both are submitting mutually to each other.
Right, yeah. A lot of people, when they're arguing about patriarchy and trying to have that pull and that questioning of those beliefs and how close do I hold this, Ephesians 5 is one of the passages that is often brought up. But when it is brought up, it is typically brought up with just verses 22 and down, which is also known as household codes. Husbands, love your wives, wives, submit to your husbands, children, obey your parents, and so forth. But the thing that a lot of people don't do is pull verse 21 down into that. And if you pull verse 21 down into that, it changes from a command of this is what you should do. It changes it to a command of this is what we should all be doing.
So when we talk about patriarchy, I know that right now you're in this amazing church, you have a great support system around you,
yes.
but that has not always been the place where you're able to kind of question some of these things, question patriarchy and especially.
Right.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like?
So the church that we were at believed very strongly in male leadership, that because men were created first in the Genesis account, they therefore should be the ones that are leaders. They believed that women, due to Paul's conversation in Romans, should not be able to speak in church. When we went to that church, there were a lot of things that I didn't believe at the time that we started going, and I just stayed quiet because here I am, this young new person in a completely different community, trying to just grapple around with having just gotten married, joining a new church, moving across the country. So I just didn't say anything at the time because I couldn't. These were people that I respect as leaders in the church. These are my friends. These are some people that ended up taking really good care of us in a season of life where we needed people to take care of us. However, as we stayed within that church, there was more and more of a struggle within myself. I ended up having all of our children while we were at that church, and all of our kids are 2 years apart. So it was a big deal. It was very draining. Our last child, I became so deficient that she and I both ended up with a condition where we could have died during her birth. And a lot of that was due to the teachings of the church, which was the quiverful movement, very patriarchal. The women stay home, they do all the work, they have all the children. And then we homeschool, and so I was also trying to teach all of the children during all of this. I became extremely depressed. I didn't feel like I had anybody that understood the questionings of my beliefs or even would support it. So that started to feel very unsafe. And so I became very depressed. I started being a very angry mother. I started struggling with just even going to church. And it was a really dark season of life during that time.
Well, and I also recognize this tension in you that you're not like trying to cut off heads right now either.
No.
You're trying to be very respectful and loving. And it, for a stage of your life, this was an amazing group of people that surrounded around you, but didn't allow you this freedom to be able to sneak out something like that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that they were trying necessarily. I think it was that clash of, these are my beliefs and I'm going to hold them this firmly because I believe they're true. And then okay, but your beliefs aren't making sense in my brain. And so it was just that uncomfortable clash of, how do we figure this out? And unfortunately, we all triggered enemy mode in each other, and it blew up and caused a lot of hurt in all of us.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. So, coming off the heels of that, I know that you had a pretty personal story that you shared online, actually, about it too, and I wanted to know if you would be able to share that kind of about the church and modesty and what you can wear and what you can't wear inside the church. Would you be willing to share that with my viewers?
Like I said, I had my kids while we were at this church. I was, at the time of this story, I was a nursing mom. I had 3 children under the age of, I guess the oldest would have been under the age of 6. And then a nursling. And it was difficult during that time to find clothes that fit because, as we all know, women's bodies change tremendously during pregnancy and postpartum, and then if you're nursing, it's a whole nother thing. I had gone shopping, found some clothes that actually fit, had access so that I would be able to feed the baby, and I brought them home, showed them to my husband. It's like, do you think these are okay? And his response was, yeah, you look beautiful in these. To be clear, he's not the kind of person that tells me what to wear or what not to wear. So I wore the dress that I bought one Sunday, and even that Sunday, he and I had a conversation. I was like, are you sure that this isn't going to cause problems? And he said, no, you look beautiful, it's modest, you'll be fine. So I went to church, we all sat down in the pew, the kids were fine. As always happens, 10 minutes into the service, the baby needed a diaper change. So I got up. At this point, I'm just getting to church to sit down. I was sweating, and so went to go change, try to cool off a little bit, eventually come back in and sit down. But as I was in the hallway passing this church's pastor's wife, I saw her glance around the room, and then she literally grabbed my arm. And not with just like the soft, gentle, how are you feeling? It was the feeling you have when your mother is pissed at you. And she grabs your arm to get your attention. All this time, I'm holding this baby in my arm, have a diaper bag on my shoulder. And she gets in my face and she says, "How dare you wear that dress in front of my sons?" I, of course, am shocked, crushed, hurt, falling apart now, because here I am 10 minutes into the service having been accosted, and at the time I wouldn't have called it abuse. Now I very clearly call it abuse, by this woman who had become a sort of mother figure to me, over a dress. Because the standards were held so tightly and so closely, it caused her to just pop that circuit in your brain that pushed you over into enemy mode, and within seconds I became an enemy within my own church. And it felt so unsafe. And yet, because these were the standards at the church and because they were held so closely, it was, again, who do I tell this to without being told you're gossiping or slandering? Who do I seek wisdom from and how to handle this situation? And it was miserable. But that's not the worst of the story. Eventually, my husband and I went to meet with the pastor and his wife, and we're all sitting there having a conversation. And during that conversation, the pastor looked at us and he said, "Well, of course your husband wants to see you a certain way, so he's going to tell you that this dress is modest." So now I'm sitting before my husband, who I dearly love and respect and appreciate, a pastor who has been a very critical figure in our early married life, and I'm having to choose. Do I trust what my pastor says, that I now can't trust my husband's judgment on my clothes? Or do I start questioning the leadership even more? And when you're stuck in that situation, it's just miserable. It was intense, and it was not the only meeting of that type that we had. There were more, and I've been healing a lot of church hurt from those situations.
Well, and I feel like I want my people to know also, it wasn't like a crazy dress. It was like you could see your shoulders and arms, and that was it. That was it.
It was a halter top dress that had the same halter cut in the back. So literally, as much as you see of my shoulders now is what you saw with that dress. Yeah,
I mean, so much for the right to bear arms, right? That's what we joked about. I mean, here we are. That's right. Get those on. It's really. I just wanted to express it wasn't like you were wearing something crazy. And once again, I think women can wear whatever they want to wear. As long as you feel comfortable in it, wear it. And if you feel like this is something that I feel beautiful in, I feel comfortable in it, I would wear it. It's not my position to tell people what to wear. But I want you to know that it wasn't like you were wearing just a sports bra in church or something. It was very appropriate. We would call it appropriate.
It was a floor-length dress. Yeah. It was just because my shoulders were uncovered that this whole situation happened.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Me too. Think about those young men who are being taught that they can't be trusted. They can't be trusted to have a woman fully clothed sitting in front of them in church and not be able to lust or control themselves. And at its heart, the reason that I am reacting so strongly to patriarchy is because it's a system of mistrust. It's mistrusting women, it's mistrusting men, and it's just spiraling into this vortex of mistrust of everybody within the church. And we're having so much church hurt that's caused by it. And I want to see other people heal from it, not keep getting hurt by it.
Yeah. I think that's so important for us to take a look at. And I think also, when I think of the Bible and I think about Jesus and I think about all the stuff that we're going through, I think about, would Jesus grab a hold of someone's arm, in the hallway, and pull them to the side and, yell at them, basically? I don't think so, especially not the female. In the Bible, Jesus seems to, when there's a problem with men, lusting, he kind of takes it in a different state. He's like, pluck out your eye. If your eye causes you sin, just take that thing out. It kind of puts it in a different perspective, that it's really, it's on the men to do that, not on the women. And I think that's important for us men also to remember that, and that we can be trusted to not be jerk faces all the time. I know because of your eightness, which I love and is wonderful, and because you are vocal, I think that you're kind of a champion online of being able to champion some of these views
Yeah.
It's not to poke at people. I think it's to help the church heal.
It is it's both. It's to help the church heal, and it's also to help me heal.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the dual-edged sword on that one.
Yeah.
So I know that because you have been vocal about that, you've also received a certain amount of pushback. And I know that has strained some relationships. It has broken relationships. I want to know, what has that been like for you?
It's been really difficult. There are people that I still dearly love. And even in the past 2 weeks, I've been having a lot of attachment pain. So when I say attachment pain, I'm thinking the same kind of pain that a child feels when they've been ripped from their family of origin, or the same kind of pain that a spouse feels during a divorce, and that's the reason why they go back. Because there's something about the way our brains handle attachment that it isn't always easy. Even though we can say on the one side, this hurt me, why would I want to go back to that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're missing that other relational side, it's like your brain's at war with itself. And it's been so hard, because even now I find myself wanting to write a letter or wanting to call up the person and just pick up where we left off. Yeah. But when there's that deep of a hurt and that deep of a holding of those beliefs so closely, I don't know if those things will ever be reconciled, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I bet that there are people that are watching this that will probably have a couple different reactions. Some people are like, wow, I'm so glad I'm not a part of that church. I bet some people are saying that. But I bet that there are some other people that are watching this and that are recognizing or seeing shadows of that, glimpses of that in the churches and the faith backgrounds that they come from.
Yeah.
And I want to know if maybe you could point us towards some resources to help people, maybe that have had that as their past or as their present right now and want to help some of their healing. What would you point us to?
Yeah. So on the Patriarchy side, I read a book during all of the COVID stuff while there was nothing else to do called The Making of Biblical Womanhood. Mm-hmm. The author is Beth Allison Barr. She is a historian, so she takes you from the beginning of the book to talk about some of her experiences, somewhat similar to mine, only she was a pastor's wife, and they were dismissed from their church because of patriarchal type teachings about women teaching men. And then she takes you through history to watch the ways that patriarchy shapeshifts so that it fits into, and that power place still is attached into our culture. And she takes you from the garden all the way through medieval England all the way to where we are now. But then on a personal healing level, so during COVID, I started reading a book called The Other Half of Church. And it's specifically written by a neurotheologian. So he is a theologian, pastor, but has also had experience with brain science. So he takes what he finds in brain science and he applies it to Scripture. And he says, where does this that we're studying match up with Scripture? And that book has been probably the most instrumental in healing my church hurt, but then also helping me address the issues, because I've never seen somebody handle these types of situations well. We always trigger each other into enemy mode. And so I've always had the desire of, I don't want to be that older woman that is accosting younger women about their clothing or about this choice or that choice. But I've never seen it modeled. How do we do this as women in the church? How do we stand firm against something that is trying to have power over us, but also how do we heal the hurts that are still there at the same time? And I highly recommend Jim Wilder as an author. He has another book called Renovated that I have been reading that's excellent. All really good resources.
So those are a few things that maybe you could look into if maybe that's a part of your past, or something in her story resonated within you, that you're not stuck in this. You don't have to repress that part of you. You can actually start to heal from some of that over time.
It is possible. It's hard work, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
It's nice to be feeling like a joyful, normal person again.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful having you as a neighbor and getting to see that and watch that. And I, once again, I don't want you to have to always like walk through your trauma in front of a camera, but I feel like it's helpful for us to be able to see a part of that so that we can help to be able to change our lives and how we're doing things, and recognize for men that are in leadership, when we make decisions, what that looks like from the other end. I just want to say thank you again for coming onto my channel. It's wonderful having you here, and you get to see my studio. Welcome to my studio. Yeah, I was wondering, we should have gotten your bobcat this week to come up here and attack us, but Tharisha, you would have loved to have seen that. I just want to say next week I am excited to be back here again. We're going to be doing another Thoughtful Thursday, so join us back here next week, same time, same place. See you then. So. You wore makeup. I didn't wear makeup.
I did. You want to go get some?
I better go get some. A little rouge, at least.
I'm fine with that.
My cheeks
Being
are
a theater geek, I had to put something on. I was like,
yeah,
I can't do, and just can't.
I was a theater geek, so I'm used to putting on makeup.
Yeah, I was like, I should let Kyle know I'm doing this.
Yeah, I'm Creamy Peach, and I don't know what color lip I was. Well, welcome back to my Thoughtful Thursdays video. Welcome back to my Thoughtful Thursdays video. Welcome back to my Thoughtful Thursdays video channel. See, I messed that up. See? See, I messed that up now. You got a bug crawling on you.
Thank you.
At one point in time, I saw it on you, and I was like, oh no, but then you were in the middle of a thing, so I was like, well.
It's all good.